What's up, sports fans? It's Edge of Philly Sports and the Painted Lines. I'm Freddie Burns. I have Chris Dives of the Painted Lines with me right here. We got Monday Night Football, Eagles, Commanders. We got the matchups. We got predictions. We got the offense versus the defense, defense versus the offense. We're even going to sprinkle in some special teams. We'll be back in, 30 seconds? Go Birds. Yeah. Welcome into Eagles Pregame Live here on Monday Night Football. Your undefeated Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Washington Commanders, the Carson Wentzless Washington Commanders. This is supposed to be a big game. Wentz coming back to the link. That's not happening. But before we get into today's game, I got Chris Dives here with me at the Painted Lines. What's going on, Chris?
What is going on, man? Oh, man, I'm so psyched for Monday Night Football. We're breaking it down, and the Eagles are here. Week 10, undefeated, man. Just take a step back and just enjoy this, man. Whatever happens tonight happens. Eagles are undefeated. The Saints pick is number 4 right now. Everything's good, baby.
It is good. 8-0. I don't think anyone really thought we would be 8-0 right now, regardless of your optimism on the season. So 8-0 is great. Before we get into tonight's game, I want to touch on the history real quick because I like doing that on these shows. It's important. Eagles, Commanders, and at one time was the Redskins. It goes all the way back, this rivalry, to 1934 when they were actually the Boston Redskins. Overall, the Commanders lead the series 88. They're 88, 82, and 5. Some websites said 87, 83, and 6. I'm not really going to get into it, but that's the gist. Real quick, I have a bunch written down here. I'm curious which one you're going to pick. Of all the history watching Eagles of this rivalry, what's one that stands out for you?
Can I pick this season? Because when they had, I don't even know how many quarterback hits on Carson Wentz. That was pretty magical. But when I think of Washington, I'm in my mid-30s. I'm going to 2010 Monday Night Football. The Eagles offense just crushing the souls of the Redskins for 59 points, I believe it was. You had Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, Shady, J-Mac, all on the same team, all in their prime. Like that game was just truly magical. Michael Vick had 6 touchdown passes. Some might say that was arguably the best Michael Vick game of all time. That game was the one that showed just how amazing Michael Vick was. And like when I think of that game, I think of just Michael Vick just throwing 70-yard bombs with the flick of his wrist. It was just truly epic, man. That was my favorite one. Like that was just Vick showcasing his peak arm power, speed. He was older then, like I think he was almost 30. So he had some like wisdom, like he had a lot of history behind his NFL career. So for me, 2010 Monday Night Football.
Yeah, as a passer, it's hard to argue. 400 yards passing, like you said, 6 touchdowns. He had D-Jax and Macklin. It felt like he just threw it up. They would catch it. And that game probably was because early on in his career, admittedly, he didn't even study the playbook. He would just come out and just play street ball and still was awesome. So, like, for him that's one of the standing moments that stands out to me. Before I get into mine, I just want to touch on Body Bag Game. I didn't really watch it. I was 3 years old. I cannot not mention that. And in the Super Bowl year, I know Carson Wentz is maligned now, but a lot of his magical moments came against the Redskins and kicked off that year. The in the pile, scramble, throw to Nelson Aguilar. But my number one that stands out to me, I got to go to 5. Donovan McNabb back in 2000. He ran for like 125 yards. I distinctly just remember that was like his little juke, and then he scored. Eagles won by 3. They went to 9-4. That was their first division title and first playoff berth since 1996. So Donovan McNabb against the Skins. That's the moment that stands out to me. Enough of the and the bodyguard game. Oh my God, Nick Foles with JP. That's another good one. There's so many. But let's dive into tonight. Eagles face a Commanders team that has been doing better, but still not getting the W's down. Week 3, we beat them 24-8. Carson Wentz was sacked 9 times. I will say the score is a little deceiving. We had a 24-point second quarter, got shut out the rest of the game, and that was concerning at the time. We're going to get into the offense versus the defense versus the offense. First, let's get into the injury report here. For the Redskins, they're going to get Jahan Dotson back, which is huge for their wide receiving core now, because now Curtis Samuel can move into that 3 spot and be in the slot. Not that he moved from the slot, but he'll be the 3 receiver at this point with Terry McLaurin. That's huge for them. But their line's banged up. Norwell and Larson are going to play, but they did Norwell didn't practice. Larson did practice, and they lose their 2 linebackers, Mayo and Holcomb. So that's huge for them. On the Eagles side of things, we're going to miss Avonte Maddox. The slot is big time because, especially what I just said about those receivers, how that's going to match up with C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming down in the slot. They will get Josiah Scott to play tonight, but he was questionable, so it's not like he's 100% healthy. So that's the injury report. Let's dive into the Eagles offense versus the Commanders defense. First, Eagles they're a run RPO team, love shotgun, obviously a lot of 1 tight end, 3 wide receiver sets. The Redskins defense has been improving, especially their run game. How do you see this matchup start going out tonight?
Yeah, that's a really good place to start. You look at this Washington run defense. I believe they're number 1 in DVOA. And this is a really strong rushing defense. They have limited Cook, Taylor, and Jones to 151 combined yards over the last 3 games. You look at Miles Sanders, who I think has had a terrific season. He only had 3.1 yards per carry on 15 carries in week 3. So for me, throw that to the side. I think we're going to see a heavy dose of an Eagles passing attack in this one. Obviously, you can't ignore Devontae Smith going absolutely crazy over Washington in week 3. So I'm looking at that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith versus the Commanders secondary big time. And I think it's really important to say here that the Commanders secondary has really improved since week 3. A big player to watch and a big reason the Commanders have been much better in their secondary is Cameron Curl. This guy, he had his first game against the Eagles in week 3, but since then has done a really terrific job. He's actually PFF's number 1 ranked highest graded safety in the NFL right now. He's a big time hitter. So how A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith manage against the Washington secondary is huge, because this is going to be a tough game to run, like last game against the Texans when they just ran, especially in that second half with Miles Sanders and whoever. So for me, throw out the run game. Let's see another Devontae Smith game where he just absolutely torched that Commander secondary.
Yeah, the Commanders defense, they've given up 21 points in their last 5 games. They faced some good running backs, held them out. They almost beat an now 8-1 Vikings team, who I know we blew out, but they just beat the Buffalo Bills yesterday. So that's a good football team. They typically have 4-man fronts. Sometimes they'll go 2 linebacker or 1 linebacker and fill the rest with DBs, but their linebackers are out. So I'm curious what will happen there. They don't blitz yet. They're like second in the league in pressures percentage-wise. I think it's like 33%, something like that. The evolution of this defense is going to be like fun to see tonight against this Eagles offense, because the Eagles offense has gotten better over this time period as well. You bring up Curl as the safety. Another D-back for the Reds or the Commanders that's gotten better is St. Juste. Benjamin St. Juste. He was coming out of college. You're a big college guy out of what was he? Minnesota. I know he was like as far as like the intangibles at the combine and stuff, like crushed it with the cone, has speed, has the height, the length. He had Justin Jefferson last week and held his own. So that's another matchup. What do you think is your key matchup to see between the Eagles offense and this defense?
I mean, it's obviously Jalen Hurts and how they manage that. I like how you brought up pressure because Jonathan Allen and they have another guy, Payne, Daron Payne. Those two guys are absolutely terrific, just terrorizing quarterbacks. Not so much against the run, but when it comes to those two guys attacking Jalen Hurts, that is a big one for sure. Jalen Hurts has had a really good stretch of games here, at least a passer rating of at least 100 in the last 3 games. And I think what's been most impressive from the Eagles offense in general has been just how they beat teams down the stretch. I mean, you want a quick strike, less than 5 play offense like we saw with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, you got it. You want a 10-play, 10-minute drive, sustaining drive, just to completely take momentum away from their opponent, you got it. So we're going to see what Jalen Hurts in this offense is going to give us here because you look at, like, I'm kind of like jumping ahead here a little bit, but you look at this Washington offense as well, especially in the first half. 14, 0, 0, 7, 10, 3, 10, 7, 3. They only averaged 6 points per game in the first half. We all know how elite this Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts is in the second quarter. That's definitely an area where the Eagles can just jump ahead and just cut this team's throat and just put it away in the first half if according to the game plan and everything falls into place.
Yeah, I'm curious to see with our run pass option. Jordan Mailata has struggled the last few games. I know he's a little banged up. He's going to have Montez Sweat on him. And, the Commanders have 23 sacks this year. It's not terrible. I believe they're 11th in, yardage per game as well. I want to see Mailata against Sweat because if they run you can run the RPO to the other side with Lane Johnson, obviously, but there's going to be times where Mailata is going to have to stop Sweat. If you get Sweat going and cause confusion with Hurts, that's going to be the key for the Commanders to stop the Eagles because they just have what they wanted in that second quarter. If Jack Del Rio can dial that up, confuse Hurts, and have the Eagles not be able to read that RPO correctly, that can cause a lot of havoc, especially if you're not able to block.
Yeah, the Washington Commanders, and Chase Young is not playing in this game, which is absolutely huge because when all their weapons are together across that defensive line on the same field, they're really, really good. That's arguably the biggest strength of their team. So you look at Daron Payne, you look at Jonathan Allen, and all those kind of Montez Sweat. That's definitely going to be something to watch. They're kind of like the 2021 Eagles, where they're not tallying, crazy sack numbers, but when it comes to like pass rush win rate and stuff, they are there. They're definitely getting into the backfield. They're just not getting home. And the good news for the Eagles here is that if we're going to see Jalen Hurts take more dropbacks, the Eagles have only allowed pressures on 21.4% of their dropbacks, which is a top 10 mark in the NFL. So throw out that Texans game because they were just, I don't know what that was. That was a short game on a short rest. So for me, this still falls in the favor of the Eagles if we're going to see more Jalen Hurts and the passing attack.
And if they do get the pressure, I think the screen game, which was used in the first game with Dallas Goedert, to utilize that, and then also check out Jason Kelce on that second level. They got 2 linebackers that are out tonight. And if Kelce can get to that second level and do his thing, I think the run game can really open up for the Birds as well, even though the Redskins are technically a good run D. So another good thing to watch. Let's move over to the defense. The Eagles defense versus the Commanders offense. Obviously, game 1, Carson Wentz holding on to the ball was a huge part of that, 9 sacks. But the Eagles got there pretty quick as well. I still think they would have had 4 or 5 sacks regardless. We have a new quarterback now, Tyler Heineke, in there. He's a lot more mobile than Wentz, obviously. And they run a ton of RPO as well. How do you see this matchup shaking out?
Yeah, it starts with Tyler Heineke and like what we're going to see from this guy. Definitely a different quarterback, of course, than Carson Wentz, but he still has a knack for making a lot of risky throws. And when you talk about risky throws, you have to talk about one of the biggest things we have learned about this Eagles team, which has to be takeaways. The Eagles' turnover margin. The Eagles are number one team in turnover differential. They are a plus 15. On the opposite end, the Washington Commanders have the sixth worst turnover differential at a -4. So Heineke has to be on target in this one. He's going to get the ball out fast. He's going to try and fit the football into tight windows. But the Eagles have been absolutely dynamic when it comes to creating havoc. So for me, it starts with Tyler Heineke and what he can do, because you look back at that last game defensively. I mean, that was the storyline of the game, was how the Eagles were able to just generate pressure with Ford, generate pressure with the blitz. Like, they were all over Carson Wentz, whether it's Hassan Reddick or Graham or Sweat or, one of your DBs coming off a blitz, or TJ Edwards coming up the middle on a blitz. Like, that has been one of the true strengths of this Eagles defense, is timely blitzes and generating pressure with four. So what do we see from Tyler Heineke? I'm really excited to see it.
I'm gonna slam some Heineken. Sounds like you've already had some Heinekens, Joe, based on that English. But
cheers, Joey.
Dives has already got the Heinekens going, flowing. Just kidding with you there, Joe. Hopefully he does get slammed down. A big part of that pass rush was Hassan Reddick versus Samuel Kazi. He eventually had to be taken out of the game week 3. Yeah. That's how bad it was. And, Javon Hargraves, he had 3 sacks last week. He had a lot of pressure as well. I think that's a big matchup, though. Hassan Reddick, again, the Eagles like to use with Jordan Davis out. You're probably going to see more 4-man fronts than you would 5, even though Hargrave has played nose tackle at Pittsburgh. That's a big matchup for me, because if that continues, then that's going to force the I keep calling them the Redskins, the Commanders, to go to the other side and not go towards Kazi's side, who he got ripped last game.
So Cosme's still out, from what I heard, right? I believe your right tackle here is Cornelius Lucas, man, who's been a turnstile these last couple of weeks. So I think that's definitely
you're right, actually.
Okay. Yeah, Cornelius Lucas has really struggled. I almost called it Redskins too. The Commanders' offensive line, especially on the interior, is weak, but on that right side is definitely somewhere the Eagles can absolutely exploit. So for me, I'm like leaning towards like a Robert Quinn game. We haven't seen much from Robert Quinn. His snaps were down last week. This is the game I want to see, like, kind of Robert Quinn lick his chops and just go to work and see, like, get a couple of sacks, maybe a forced fumble, bring that juice, baby. That's what I want to see from Robert Quinn. He's rested. He should be fresh. Robert Quinn.
Walter Papela, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Commandos O-line going to get blown up by our front four. That's a very good point, because not only does their O-line stink, they're banged up as well. So there was questions with their center and guard coming into this game. I mean, the Eagles have to win up front. That's the whole basis of Gannon's defense. He doesn't like the blitz. He will blitz. But the whole premise is the front 4, front 5 gets pressure organically. So you're spot on there. Anyone listening, please hit our like button, subscribe. Appreciate Walter listening, everyone else chiming in. Really appreciate it. Another matchup that I alluded to with the injuries that I'm interested to see is that slot now. Curtis Samuel against CJ Gardner-Johnson or Josiah Scott. We'll get into Bradbury and Slay and how great they've been, which is a matchup in their own with the other 2 receivers. But that's going to be key for me. Like, can we get pressure? If we don't, that's an opening. They move Samuel all over the defense. They're going to have to move our slot corner all over, and Avonte Maddox is out. I'm very concerned with that. Yeah,
Josiah Scott is absolutely the guy I'm watching on defense tonight. The Eagles coming into this, their pass defense was arguably the best in the NFL. And that's going to be tested tonight big time because I believe they just announced that Avonte Maddox is heading to the IR, which really sucks because I'm a big Avonte Maddox fan. How Scott handles like Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson is going to be really interesting. Dotson hasn't played the last 5 games due to a hamstring injury. But like this dude was really good the first few weeks he played in the NFL. He was tied for the league lead with 4 touchdown receptions through week 4 before he got hurt, man. But he only had 2 receptions for 10 yards in week 3 against the Eagles. And those were both career, I guess, season lows for Jahan Dotson. I think the biggest thing I'm watching tonight when it comes to Jahan Dotson is his ability in the red zone. You look at Washington, and this is a team that only gets 2.4 scoring opportunities in the red zone per game. That is a bottom mark in the NFL. When you go back before Jahan Dotson got hurt, man, this dude had 3 touchdown catches in the red zone. So, like, that's definitely something I'm going to be looking at. Heineke hasn't been great in the red zone this year, 54% completion percentage. And so that matchup, Josiah Scott, Jahan Dotson, and can they limit the damage? That's what I'm looking at.
It's going to be interesting to see because all 3 of the receivers are good players, and the key is going to be, obviously, as we've been saying, is Heineke. Can he get the ball to them and not turn it over? Darius Slay comes into this game number 1 in the league with opposing quarterbacks with a 35.1 quarterback rating thrown towards him.
Ridiculous.
So that's awesome. Love Slay. Guess who's second?
Yeah.
James Bradbury at a 40.1 rating.
Nuts.
They both have 3 interceptions, and Bradbury has 17 more attempts thrown at him. So, outside there, we're good. It's going to come down to, the health of Dotson. That's going to give them some speed on the outside. Any other matchups you're looking at with our defense versus their offense? How about the run game? Are you concerned with Pierce being just gashing us last week?
Yep. Yeah, let's talk about the Eagles' run or lack of run defense. We're going to get our first full taste of Brian Robinson this week. He didn't play much or didn't play at all, I think, in week 3. Not sure. Yeah. I forget. So Brian Robinson, he's a big guy. I think it's more so the Eagles lacking the personnel with the absence of Jordan Davis. We'll see how the fact that they're home, I'm not that worried about their run defense. I will be worried about it in a couple of weeks when they take on Tennessee. But when it comes to this Eagles run defense, it's more so like it's the personnel, but it's also like the discipline and the missed tackles and things like that, man. This Eagles defense has not played discipline. They have 82 missed tackles this season. They had 14 against the Texans. But like for me, it's kind of negated because the Commanders' interior offensive line is also not good. That's a weak spot for this team. The interior Washington offensive line is 29th when it comes to pass blocking. They're just as bad when it comes to run defense. So for me, I'm not concerned about it. This isn't the week to be really concerned about run defense, but this is any given Sunday. Like the Houston Texans came out and shocked everyone, I think, with an efficient offense that kind of put the Jonathan Gannon and the Eagles defense on their back heels just a little bit. So you never know. You never know what you're going to see. But Brian Robinson, I'm fun to watch. I was not very high on him in the draft process, not like Dameon Pierce, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, that's the Eagles defense versus the Commanders offense. I know you hate it, Dibes. You can even say no comment if you want. I just want to quickly touch on special teams because it is a part of the game. The Commanders have a really good punter, Tress Way. He was named NFC Player of the Month in October. And they also have Antonio Gibson, who has, with Brian Robinson coming back, he's top 5, not Robinson, Gibson in kickoff returns. The Commanders have had their issues as well with penalties. They probably beat the Vikings last week without their special teams penalties. The Eagles, week after week, struggle on special teams, but to Dive's point, has yet to cost them a game or burn them. So will tonight be the night? I don't know. Maybe not. So we'll see.
Nobody cares about special teams. Get rid of it.
We are into predictions. We are into predictions. Cam Labarge, thank you for listening. Comes in. He has Eagles 31-21. That's a Commanders cover for you gamblers out there. I believe it will be closed for a while due to some of the talent Wasp has, but Philly will pull away late. And Quentin Moore always chiming in. You're the man. Hey, them 49ers, that was I'm worried about them. Last night I was starting to feel good, but they come back and get the W. So I'm still worried about them as well. Quentin, thank you for listening. We're not worried. I'd say I'm more worried than Dives is about our run defense because I don't think it was that great with Jordan Davis in either. It's not like it was lights out. But to my point last week on the postgame show, it doesn't really matter if you don't give up points. If you give up yards between the 20s through the run and slow and stop them inside and give up field goals and no touchdowns, it's not as big of a deal. Let's move to player of the game, and then we'll get into predictions. Dibes, who is your player of the game for tonight?
It's hard not to go Devontae Smith in this one. Dude was wide open in that week 3 matchup. Had a huge game. He's been kind of quiet over the last few weeks. I would love to see Devontae Smith torch the Washington Commanders again tonight. He could like start that trend of being the new like Boston Scott versus the New York Giants. I would love to get I'd love to get one of those against Washington, and that would be Devontae Smith. So I'm going to go Devontae again. I think, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are just playing so well together. I think the gravity and the attention that A.J. Brown is going to get tonight is going to, again, open up wide open passing lanes for Devontae Smith. I'm expecting at least, 8 to 9 catches for Devontae, and I'll go 120, 130 yards. Devontae Smith returns tonight.
I like that. He's also a birthday. It's his birthday today as well.
I didn't know that. Love it.
And it's funny you say that because I feel like he hasn't been getting the ball enough that it just happens to be the Redskins game. But like, there's got to be a time where they have to it was last time it was the Redskins game where you could tell they clearly came out and said, hey, we are getting the ball to Devontae Smith. Yeah. AJ's had too much. Let's get it to him. So I agree with your point there. My player of the game, I will say, and I talked about Benjamin St-Juste. He was their slot guy until he took the job of, I believe his last name was Wallace, and he's been doing like very well as the second corner on the end. So we may see a little bit of difference there where if he's whoever he isn't covering would be the guy that takes off for me. But my player of the game, and I really think this is a big Jalen Hurts game because if Jordan Mailata struggles and they're able to get these pressures, like I said, they only scored 24 points in the second quarter, and Jack Del Rio figured out this offense in the second half. He really did. Hurts struggled in the first quarter, and we weren't really optimistic about it after that game. Like, did he relapse? Is he not reading the defense well? So I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts as my player of the game. I think he has improved. He's ready to rock, and I'm calling this. He has these once a season where he does that quick juke move and jukes the hell out of the defensive lineman. Montez Sweat, it's happening. It's happening tonight. So Jalen Hurts is going to be my player of the game. Let's jump into predictions with that. What is your score? Before I get into that, before your predictions, let me give the line. Eagles are favored by 11.5. I saw that move down to 10.5, which is not good for the betting public as far as Eagles having a blowout. What's your prediction on this game?
That's really interesting too, because I'm not a gambling person. I don't have the personality to gamble because if once I start, I won't be able to stop. I'm very I'm very aware of those kind of things but that's kind of my vibe. Like if you go back to my show earlier last week, I thought the Eagles would be up, probably win something around the 30-13 range, but like the line, my confidence is a little bit less. And I think I'm somewhere in that like 24 to 14, 24 to 13 range. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to say 24 to 13. It might not be the huge entertaining offensive game like we're expecting, but I think the Eagles defense again comes out strong. Robert Quinn, Josh Sweat. I don't think the Commanders offensive line is going to have any answer for our pass rush. I think Jonathan Gannon will be probably like highly regarded after this one. It's just one of those NFC East slugfests here on Monday Night Football. That's my vibe right now.
24-14, and without even telling you, Dives, you're spot on with that over/under, which was 43. So
really,
if you're betting, take the over. If you're listening to Dives, you're going to hit it by 1 point.
I would go under with this one.
Not
I think
according to your score. According to your score.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The over/under is 43. You're at 44. So the betting pub. Oh, no, you're not. 24-14 is 38. I got to take math again. You're right. Take the under. Jesus Christ, Fred. Chuck Driver tuning in. Thank you for listening. Please hit that like and that subscribe button. I found you guys on Facebook. Keep doing what you do. Thank you so much for listening. And Quentin Moore, right with you. 23-17.
Yeah.
Another. That's right at 40.
Hey, Quinn has that check mark on Twitter, man. He's for real. So
thank you for listening, Quentin, and chiming in as
Quinn's
always.
The man.
Now,
he's the man. Quinn is the absolute man.
He really is. Now let's get to my prediction. I think this is a close game.
Really?
It's NFC East. I don't know why. It just always seems to pan out that way. Even that Dallas game got down to a one-score game in the fourth quarter with Cooper Rush. And the Redskins game, we blew them out in that quarter, but they were always within striking distance. If Wentz didn't hold on to the ball so damn long, they probably could have got another score and made that a close game there. There were opportunities for them to do so. I'm going with Quentin's score. I like 23. Actually, no, I'm gonna kick a field goal back. I'm gonna go 23-14 Eagles.
Nice.
The Commanders, and even he's put the Redskins. I just realized on his score. I'm so sorry to keep doing that. It's gonna take me 5 or 10 years to do it. I'm telling you, it's been ingrained in me since I'm 37 years old. And so I apologize for anyone that's offended. It's not in vain there. So, I'm gonna go 23-14. A huge Jalen Hurts game. I think he's going to run a little bit more. The Commanders have been good against the running quarterback, if you will, but not Jalen Hurts. He can throw the ball, and I think they're going to be very susceptible to that. Everyone listening, tune in at halftime. Me and Dives will be back. Halftime Hustle live right here. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Painted Lines, Edge of Philly Sports. You can find us there. There'll also be a post-game show with me, Al, and Pat Bernard of Devro Sports. Dives, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Crackpot. Never changing that name. I've had that forever. But you can find me starting NFL draft coverage this week. And I'm really excited about that. I have a panel on Thursday night on Party on Broad is finally making its return after about a 2-month hiatus here. So Thursday night, we'll be breaking down our top 10 Eagles draft targets for the first round. I've got 3 other people. It's going to be a lot of fun. But tomorrow night is Birds of the Round Table. We'll be breaking down everything we learned about the Eagles Week 10 matchup with the Commanders with Shane Half and my man Ryan, and as well as previewing their next week's matchup, the Indianapolis Colts. God, I'm so excited to have a Sunday game at 1:00 next week. So excited. These Monday night games are absolutely brutal for me. And then, of course, Sixers post games. I took the weekend off, man. I needed a Philly sports cleanse last weekend. Hung out with the wife. It was nice. It was really nice to kind of like just take a breath. I don't think God.
Not to go too into it, but of course, Embiid drops 59 when you can't do it. And guess what? I turned down box seats, all you can eat, club box, all you can eat, all you can drink. Because, like, again, I have with everything with my son and everything, I had to like make sure I was fresh Monday morning. You know, yeah. I could have done it hungover, but I'm like, but I had all this stuff going on, and we had stuff to do on Sunday. And then, of course, he drops 59.
Yeah. So, it was awesome. But some like I get too emotional. And I don't like that. I don't like that. When that happens, I try and like take a step back and be like, whoa, because Thursday night's game really messed me up against the Hawks in Atlanta. I was like just upset at the world. And then I was like, let's take a break. I'm going to just like, I told my wife, because my wife definitely like is like, dude, what are you doing? And we had a nice, relaxing weekend. I slept better than I have in weeks.
I saw you, my friend. I saw your Doc Rivers rant. My wife said there were fire Doc signs in the. She was there Saturday night. So, but anyhow, moving off the Sixers, the rest of the EOP lineup. You got the Sully Squad, Dev Rose Sports, Patterson Ave Fanatics. You have Philly Press Box Radio on Wednesdays. You have the Edge of Philly Sports Live with Al and Joe. I'm on there sometimes, but it's more Al and Joe show. Great show. That's 8:30 on Wednesday nights. Bird's IQ with Kyle Quinn. There's a new show coming out. Tough cover as well with the Painted Lines.
Yeah.
So ton of stuff going on the Edge of Philly Sports and the Painted Lines Network. Do me a favor before we go here. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, all types of stuff. We will see you at halftime. Go Bert. Anything else, Dobbs?
Oh man, just the Saints pick.
Not the Saints pick. You check that out on Birds at a Round Table. Go Birds. We'll see you at halftime.